Right. Thank you very much for that. And may we now turn to the board assurance framework.
Thank you, which I'm presenting on Bill's behalf. If I can draw the board's attention to 2 or 3 changes, particularly the changes that there have been in the risk register since the board viewed it last time. Firstly, the reduction in the risk around urgent care demand as we move through towards the end of winter with evidence that the NHS has continued to deliver really well. A second reduction, I'm really glad that Paul left me the glory and didn't steal my thunder on reporting to you that we've reduced the risk on transition of the transfer of assets and liabilities risk likelihood on the grounds of agreeing an accounts direction. I think one issue that we should note is an increase in the risk on activity to control, which is exactly what Paul alluded to earlier, that we still have real concerns that we don't have the sorts of contract monitoring activity that we would really like to have, which is having an impact on our contracting ability, particularly around specialised commissioning, and on the basis of the decision to increase the risk at the Executive Risk Committee, a range of other actions put in place to improve around that information. And also, if I can get the board to note that some new actions were added around emergency preparedness and around 111. The ones around 111 are very much around safe transfer of NHS Direct, which of course has now happened. And if I can remind the board that this is the last time they'll see this specific version of the risk register. Next year we'll have a new version, but we will be very careful to ensure that all these risks are mapped carefully onto the new risk register and none of them are lost. They're either clearly closed down because it is appropriate, or they can be tracked onto the new register.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Any comments, Barbara? I mean, can I just say, it's quite interesting. We started the year with a risk register that was bright red, and tooth and claw and in every respect, and it's good to see some shoots, green shoots coming through at different points. But as we move to the new model, we will have a new way of tracking our risks and our way of managing them.
Yeah, the other thing I just to reinforce that this time last year that we never published any of this data. Mm-hmm. You know, the first big organisations do it. The first time in the history of the NHS that's been published in this way. Mm.
And entirely true to the values of the organisation. Barbara, thank you very much. We move then to item 11, which is winter performance. Back to you.
Thank you, Chairman. And what I won't do is repeat much of the stuff that I commented on in the performance report, because the board asked for a review of how well we managed winter and a look forward to managing winter for next year. So, as I say, the detail of our performance I've already mentioned, and I really do think we should commend the NHS because an awful lot of people of our staff on the front line have done an absolutely fantastic job in maintaining a great service for our patients. The paper, as well as giving quite a lot of detail of some of the aspects of what we do to monitor performance, which I won't go through, but the board has them all on the paper, describing the winter health check, the kind of information that we've been putting into the public domain every week about how we are performing and managing winter, and the information that we get from what we call the sit reps on a regular basis. This year we've continued the daily sit reps through March. Normally they would end at the end of February. We've continued them through March because if you look back at last year, there was some significant problems around delivery that actually went through into March and into April. The paper then goes on to inform the board about the precise uses of the winter funding from paragraph 26 onwards, and where we've targeted that. But I'd then like to move on to talk about our planning for 2014-2015. Again, we know we've got a population that is getting older, having more ill health and more things that we can treat. And what we need to make sure as we go through into next winter is that those treatments, as we talked about when we talked about the Better Care Fund, that can be delivered outside of hospitals in communities so that people don't need to go to the A&E department or be admitted to hospital unless it is absolutely the right thing for them to do, that we need to make sure that we're putting those in place. The working arrangements are excellent with our other partners, those who oversee the providers and our partners in local government. I also think that for next year we've learned some lessons that last year we didn't work closely enough with the voluntary sector and the independent sector because they obviously both have a great deal to offer in managing and supporting winter. As I said, I think at the last board meeting we had a round table session with the senior leaders from the independent and voluntary sector, which I chaired, and out of that has come a comprehensive work programme so that we can support each other to be ready for next winter. So paragraph 34 identifies the work streams the key work streams that we're undertaking with our partners to put us in the best place for 14-15, and I think that our absolute determination is to be much more on the front foot to make sure that people understand what's available, what help and support is available to them much earlier in the year, and that we ask for and assess plans much earlier in the year to even further improve our resilience.
Thank you. Let me invite some comments on the winter performance report.
Very good.
I think there's a unanimous...
We ran their hats to it very quickly to make it happen.
Thank you very much. And that's, I think, a genuine vote of gratitude and congratulations from across the whole board. Thank you for that. Right. We're now turning to other business. I said at the outset that I had two items of other business that I wish to bring to the board. The first is to note the secondment of Joe Wass from NHS England to the University of Leeds, and to invite the board to join me in extending congratulations to Jo on taking on this new assignment, and to wish her the very best in the new role. The University of Leeds is one of the top universities in the country, and the culture, I can assure you, of universities is slightly different from the culture of the NHS, but a fantastic opportunity. But for our purposes, simply to record that Jo was responsible for leading a major part of the operation of setting up NHS England, and particularly the transitioning of staff from the old organisations into this organisation, in ensuring that we were fit for purpose on day one. Not only that we had staff in place and that they were properly resourced and provisioned, but that also they were paid at the end of the month. And those of us who have watched that from month by month and seen I think in the first month, Jo, we had 5 successive payrolls at the end of the month to make sure that we got there. And that, by the way, is dedication way and above the normal course of duty for the Director of HR. But secondly, Jo, I would say the way in which you helped us to set the tone and the style of the organisation, the values, the organisational development processes that we've been through. We're not there yet. This is a new organisation with a new culture, but your contribution to that has been truly outstanding, and we're very grateful. Thank you for that. The second item of business is to record that this will be David Nicholson's last meeting of the board as its chief executive, and to say, in respect of that, David was appointed the chief executive of the NHS in its old guise back in 2006. I think, David, you served 5 secretaries of state. Was it Patricia Hewitt, Alan Johnson, Andy Burnham, Andrew Lansley, and Jeremy Hunt? All of them outstanding individuals. And then he transferred from that regime to this. But not only transferred, but actually was very much the architect of the model within the Health and Social Care Act that established for the first time an independent board with responsibility for the management and the day-to-day organisation through commissioning of NHS in England. I think that the extraordinary effort which was undertaken of dual running of the old system based in Richmond House, and at the same time setting up this new system in the run-up to April the 1st, 2013. It was probably something that no other country has ever attempted to do, and which many, I think, pessimists, as we now call them, would have thought was impossible for any country to do. I have to say it was a huge risk, and I am serious that our risk register in those early months was bright red. And it has been, I think, a tribute to David's delivery of NHS England into an area where we can now, although cognizant of all the risks that surround us, have a real sense of purpose and strategy and of future, is entirely down to David and his leadership. I see it as not only a matter of having exerted appropriate grip on the organisation to ensure that it moved from one model to another, but also of an intellectual rigour that has allowed us to envisage what an NHS might look like that can transcend political timelines and can do the really extraordinary things that we've been discussing this morning, which will, I hope, secure the future of an NHS free at the point of need for patients for the coming generations. So, David, your contribution has been extraordinary. It's not just over the past 7 years, but of course since 36 years. I think it's very difficult for anybody to have served an organisation that's had a consistent set of values over that time and to leave the organisation. But to leave it in a situation where it's fit for purpose, is up and running, has a sense of its future, and a sense also of its challenges is a major tribute to you. And I think the board would wish to join me, first of all, in thanking you for all that you've done, for wishing you the very best in the future, which I'm sure will continue to involve Nottingham Forest. I think running an independent Twitter account and of course continuing to keep a close interest in all our affairs. But on behalf of the whole board, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's not like a bridal speech. If you would like
I can
to
say
say
thank you. Well, I just thank the board for their support over the period. Just a couple of things I'd like to say. It's an enormous task, but it is an enormous privilege to be involved in the NHS at any level, I guess, whether it's at treating patients or at a level like ours. And it's an enormous privilege to have served patients over the period. It's been undoubtedly a very difficult period for the NHS over the last few years. Well documented. Not only have we attempted to improve services to patients, we've had to change the nature and way in which the system works. And I think the board have done a fantastic job. I have to say I've not worked with a better board, a more committed board to the values and principles of the NHS as the one that we've got here today. I will, two or three things. One of them is obviously for the next board meeting I won't be here, but I will be sat with my daughter watching it live streamed, tweeting my responses to everything that you say. Do all that, but one thing that politicians need to do now is they need not to fiddle about with the organisation of the NHS. No top-down reorganisations, I think, is the thing that is important. That the NHS needs consistency of purpose. It needs the commitment to thinking beyond the next month, but over the next 4 or 5 years, to enable the NHS really to become part of the future of this country. It's very important that they do that. And secondly, although this is my last board meeting, I haven't gone yet. So anybody who works for me, please realise that the work continues until the very last minute that I'm here. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think we all take that message. And can I say that we will now pass the normal resolution, which is that we go into private meeting for a few items of business for the rest of the day. But thank you, David, and thank you, everybody, for this morning's meeting. Thank you.